Greetings, soul family. I'm Gabby. Welcome to my Spiritual Awakening channel. So today I want to talk a little on how your physical pain is resulting from some emotional trauma. A lot of people do realize that, yes, it's not good to keep your emotions bottled up inside. But I don't know if they connect the fact that they're experiencing chronic back pain or chronic shoulder pain and, hip pain, all kinds of different pains. I don't know if they connected the two, because let's just say something traumatic happened. You may have had an argument with somebody and decided, you know what, I'm never going to speak to that person again, right? And then, a couple weeks after the argument or whatnot, you start to feel almost like zings and pains in your heart center. Your chest starts to get tight every now and then, and you get these chest pains. And you don't realize that something happened emotionally between you and another person that you might have, had a lot of love for, a lot of respect for. But instead of working through the trauma or working through the argument, you chose to shut down and bottle it inside. And you're so stubborn that you don't want to admit it. You don't want to say, I did something wrong. I apologize. So because you're swallowing the very words that will release you from this emotional trauma, that will release your body from this physical pain, you're going to suffer. Most people who suffer from anxiety and depression might not realize that there's some trauma that took place that was buried, and the trauma needs to come up for inspection. You have to address it and shed light and love and awareness on it in order for you to acknowledge that it's there. Because if you don't acknowledge that it happened or that it's there, it's going to now find another way to express itself. Because everything is just energy. Emotions is energy in motion. So if you're not going to express the emotion, if you're not going to acknowledge the emotion of what happened, you better believe it's going to find some place in your body to make noise. And that noise is not going to feel good. You see what I'm saying? So oftentimes people are I feel like it's stubbornness. I feel like people are just so damn stubborn that they can't admit when they did something wrong, or when they can't humble themselves, even if you didn't do anything wrong. You have to be the bigger person because your body is the one that's under attack now. You can't stuff it down, Like, think about people, and I used to watch this show, My 600-Pound Life, okay, on Lifetime. Is it Lifetime, or I don't know what network it is, but I'm sure you heard of it, Dr. Now, My 600-Pound Life. I like watching the show only for the psychological clarity that it gives. When you hear the backstory of the person who is over 600 pounds, it's because there's some trauma, there's some psychological abuse that took place, some physical abuse that took place. Something happened to them and they did not deal with it. So instead of deal with it, they had this gaping hole in their stomach. And then the only thing that would fill that hole is eating, excessively eating. So when you see people who are obese, don't laugh at them. Don't make fun of them, because these are deeply, deeply hurt people who have put these layers on because they're trying to fill a void that's within their spirit, a void that's within their heart center, a void, that probably can never be filled, but they don't even shed light on it. They bury it like it never happened. But everybody else can see that something's wrong with you, because there's no reason that you would be the size of 3 people. You know what I mean? So you just have to start to dig up some shit. If you're suffering physically, if you have, I don't know, you know, a lot of people have diabetes. A lot of people have, you know, like muscle pain, muscle spasms. I know a lot of people are taking shots for their back, cortisone shots. And they're having like this really extreme, painful back pain. And they're just living with it. And it's like, I want to say to them, what happened to you? Something happened to you. Let's talk about it. Let's stop ignoring what happened. Something happened to you. And you're masking it with these pills and these shots and, you know, drugs, alcohol, sex, food, whatever. You're masking it, but you're suffering. When your physical body is suffering, it's speaking to you. It's telling you that spiritually, emotionally, you need to go inside and fix what happened. And even if you can't obviously erase what happened, you can't go back in time and say it didn't happen, but you can acknowledge the reasons why it could have happened. You can look at yourself as a survivor instead of a victim. You can look at yourself as somebody who chose to be a fighter and you didn't give up. And you may have, you know, said, I don't want to ever talk to anybody about this. I don't want anybody to know that I was gang raped. I don't want anybody to know that my father sexually abused me when I was 12 years old. I don't want anybody to know that, you know, I started getting high in high school and, you know, I have this secret drug addiction. You know, it's just like, whatever it is that you face, there's so many different things that happens to people. Okay? Think about what's happening now with like the sex trafficking, has been happening. And what's happening with like the abductions of children. And then some of these children, by the grace of God, you know, Spirit was able to rescue them somehow out of these horrifying situations. But you don't think those people have unresolved trauma? Now, the best thing you can do is, if you do have trauma, especially at a younger age, before you make up your mind about the world and shit, the best thing you can do is get counseling. And I don't care what anybody says about the stigma of seeing a therapist. It's not about the therapist. Don't worry about the therapist. They are getting paid. They're doing their job. And they may have, you know, a certain way where they sit on the couch with their notebook and they ask you these random ass questions. And you might think it's just foolish. But what it is allowing you to do is to express yourself to somebody who's not going to judge you. Because the reason why we don't express ourselves is because we don't want to be judged. It's simple. The fear of judgment makes you bury it. So why not seek counsel, you know, after a traumatic event, to just unload your shit to somebody who's not going to judge you. They get paid not to judge you. Yes, this is why they just nod and write stuff down. You know what I mean? They can give you advice, sure, but you take what you need from it. You need to have somebody to express yourself to and to talk about the hurt and the pain that you were experiencing. If you don't talk about it, what's going to happen is it's going to show up in your body somewhere. And, you know, unresolved things turn into disease. Okay? So I just wanted to do this video because, you know, it's so many people hurting. I used to be one of those people with chronic muscle spasms and chronic back pain. And I had to literally have a spiritual awakening just to realize that I'm perfectly healthy. I'm young. I'm healthy. You know, I work out. I eat right. What the hell is wrong with me? And I realized that it's not physical. It's emotional. My life has taken so many ups and downs and turns. I've been riding so many waves. And I've been transformed through all of it. And sometimes, you know, other people will have to remind me of shit that happened or things that I've been through. Because I honestly know how to bury things very well. And I had to realize that when I started doing my shadow work. When I started becoming someone who can meditate. Who can go deep within my psyche. Who can go deep into my heart center and observe myself. Observe my thoughts. Okay? These things came up to the surface and they still are. This is another reason why I kind of slowed down doing my videos right now, because right now, I don't know if people tell you about this stage of a spiritual awakening, but there's a stage where you start to really uncover some deep shit. You start to really get so deep into your shadow work that you get exhausted. Your energy is expelled. You just need to, you know, rest and rejuvenate. You know, simple tasks can be exhausting because you're drudging up all kinds of buried things from many, many years. Things that I didn't acknowledge affected me. I'm realizing it did, you know? And it's strange because when things affect you as a child, you know, you might be one of those children like how I was. I didn't want, you know, my parents to know that the poverty that I lived in affected me so much. So I ignored the fact that I was poor. I just went into my own creativity and my own imagination, and that got me through most days, you know? If I had to go, you know, all day without eating breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinner, I would just use my imagination and pretend, you know, that I was on a journey and, you know, I'm going to get to this place where I can have this amazing feast at the end of this journey, you know, and my parents didn't know what I was doing, but they knew they seen me talking to myself a lot. You know what I'm saying? Retreating into myself, trying to cope. And we do that as children, and we still do that as adults. We retreat into ourselves and we try to cope. And it might look crazy to other people, but it's a coping mechanism for us. So during this stage of a spiritual awakening, you have a lot of work to do. It's exhausting. It really is. But it's so beneficial because all those physical pains now are going to start to subside. I had actually recently went to the hospital maybe like 2 weeks ago because I woke up and my entire left shoulder was like frozen solid. I could not lift my arm. My husband had to help dress me. Okay, so I'm like, did I, you know, drop down too hard in my body from astral traveling into another dimension? You know what I mean? My husband looking at me like, no, you just slept on your arm wrong. He was like, yeah, you tell a doctor that. At any rate, so, you know, I immediately, because I'm doing shadow work, I'm immediately saying, what is it that I'm afraid of? There is some fear and it's showing up in my body. I have to address this fear. So I realized the fear of having another baby has started to overwhelm me. And it was like almost a strange feeling that I couldn't describe. It was like I'm ecstatic about being pregnant and having the opportunity to have another child, you know. I mean, after you lose a child, after you get to know a baby for 5 months and 6 days, and that baby is your entire world, and you lose that baby, okay, you can imagine how low you go. And then, you know, months later, you find out you're pregnant again. It's almost like Source, Spirit, has given you another opportunity. God is looking upon you and saying, you're ready. You know what I mean? But with great power and comes great responsibility, and with such a heavy weight to bear, it was showing up in my shoulder and my neck. And they literally couldn't find anything wrong with me. They did an x-ray. They were just like, and that's another sign. If you go to a doctor and they can't find shit wrong with you, that's a #1 sign that it's not physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. You're hurting inside. It's not physical. It's just showing up physical because you're ignoring it emotionally. So it's just energy, and energy is going to express itself through whatever vessel it can. So if your body is the vessel, well, expect for it to show up there, because you're not speaking on it. You're not expressing it. You know, you're not putting any awareness or acknowledgement to it. So it's going to show up somewhere. Okay. I don't want this video to be too long. I have to go to work and go to my car. But I just really, wanted to take this time out to let you guys know that if you're feeling any physical pain right now, look for the emotional reason for that pain. Don't just accept it as, my mother and my father, they suffered from chronic back pain, so now, it's a rite of passage. Now I have it. No, that shit's not true. That means your mother and your father had some emotional trauma that they didn't deal with, and now you're following their negative pattern by not dealing with it, and it's manifested in your body too. So start doing the inner work. Start doing the shadow work now. It's not going to be easy. This part of your spiritual journey is where all the real work gets done. But once you start to do it, miracles start to manifest for you. So many amazing things start to happen for you that you don't have to struggle with it in a physical way or an emotional way. You can now use it to fuel your mission, because you have a life path, you have a soul purpose, you have a mission. So in the end, your trauma will fuel you. Okay? The whole reason I even had a spiritual awakening is because the worst thing happened to me. I lost my child. Your trauma will fuel you. So don't be afraid of it. Stop burying it. Stop running from this shit and face it head on. Start to face your fear and bring awareness to it, and watch your body miraculously heal. So I wish you all love and light, healing. More videos are always coming. I appreciate you. Please subscribe. Please like. And have a wonderful day. And love and light.